Most football fans are completely blind. You worship €50 million transfer values, useless pass counts, and media darlings. Meanwhile, absolute tactical destruction happens right in front of your eyes, and you miss every single detail. Think about it. With one cold phone call, a man destroyed the biggest ego in Spanish football before he even coached his first match. With one sentence, he shielded a goalkeeper an entire nation wanted banished. And in a World Cup semifinal, he casually left the most gifted midfielder on the planet, rotting on the bench. None of it made sense to the armchair experts. But while Europe's elites spent fortunes chasing headline managers, a man hired off a newspaper ad built a machine with 0 weak spots and quietly educated the only rival now standing between him and total glory. Forget the sugar-coated media narratives. This is the brutal truth of how Luis de la Fuente slaughtered Spain's holy dogmas, murdered their dressing room egos, and built an unstoppable modern monster. Let's dismantle the romantic lie modern football media loves to sell you. For a decade, Spain was held hostage by its own past. 70% ball possession with 2 shots on target isn't tactical elegance. It's cowardice wrapped in nostalgia. The system that won a World Cup in 2010 had mutated into a sterile safety blanket, a place to hide the terror of making a mistake. Spain didn't have a talent problem. They were paralyzed by a dead religion. They didn't need another tactical philosopher. They needed an executioner. And while the global media clamored for celebrity managers, the Spanish Federation activated a time bomb that had been ticking quietly in the background for 10 years. In 2013, Luis de la Fuente was out of work, answering a job ad in a newspaper. No superstar playing pedigree, no PR machine pushing his name. Just a man who spent a decade quietly assembling the future of a nation. He won the Under-19 Euros in 2015. He won the Under-21 Euros in 2019. While managers like Tuchel and Ancelotti were collecting tens of millions in salary, De La Fuente was teaching kids like Rodri, Unai Simón, and Fabian Ruiz how to win without fear. When he finally stepped into the senior role, he didn't need to build a team from scratch. He simply unlocked a project that was already built to destroy. Before you can build a new hierarchy, the old kings must be executed on arrival. And De La Fuente's first execution was surgical. One phone call to Sergio Ramos. No press release games. No public diplomacy. He simply told Spain's biggest icon, "You are not part of my future." Why ignite a media war before managing a single match? Because Ramos was never just a player. He was the ultimate test. Trashing that superstar status wasn't personal. It was the most expensive loudspeaker De La Fuente could find to broadcast one message to that dressing room. Your past legacy means nothing here. Naturally, the media smelled blood. When Spain got embarrassed 2-0 by Scotland 2 games later, the press declared the project dead before it even took off. They called him an out-of-his-depth youth coach. They wanted blood. They demanded he drop his goalkeeper, Unai Simón. De La Fuente didn't flinch. He looked at the cameras and delivered a sentence that defined his reign. "He is my goalkeeper, and I will die with him." That wasn't stubbornness. That was calculated loyalty. 3 months later, in the Nations League final against Croatia, Simón saved 2 penalties to deliver Spain's first trophy in 11 years. And while previous manager Luis Enrique publicly banished Fabian Ruiz from the Qatar World Cup squad, De La Fuente recalled him on day one. Why? Because he didn't care about media reputations. He knew who could actually execute his football. Enrique eventually had to publicly admit his mistake. De La Fuente didn't just hire a squad, he reclaimed the talent elite football arrogance had thrown away. Real tacticians don't hide behind system dogmas. They adapt, or they die. In September 2023, De La Fuente shattered Spain's traditional playbook. He didn't wait for media approval. He threw a 16-year-old Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams onto opposite wings. Why? Because he recognized what Spanish football had lacked for a decade: directness, vertical risk, and the lethal ability to obliterate a low block before it can settle. No more endless sideways passing. Pure, unadulterated vertical threat, but raw pragmatism demands a heavy price, and De La Fuente paid it in blood. 2 months later, in a completely meaningless qualifier against Georgia, he played Gavi, 90 minutes of useless intensity. And Gavi's knee ligament snapped. Barcelona erupted in fury. It was an unforgivable management error, an expensive lesson written in broken bone. Yet where weak coaches make excuses, De La Fuente owned the mistake. He didn't abandon Gavi to the wilderness. He integrated him back the second he recovered. And then came the move that sent shockwaves through Spanish football elitism. Pedri, the darling of Catalan media, one of the most gifted midfielders on the planet, healthy and ready to play. In the quarterfinals and semifinals of the World Cup, De La Fuente unceremoniously dropped him to the bench for Fabian Ruiz. When the press screamed for answers, De La Fuente gave them an ice-cold dose of tactical reality. Pedri cannot play for us the way he plays for Barcelona. Status didn't save Ramos. Media hype couldn't save Pedri. Luis Enrique used the ball as a shield to protect his team. De La Fuente uses it as a battering ram to destroy you. When the critics demanded safety, De La Fuente answered with total tactical destruction. Look at the blueprint. When the world expected him to play it safe against Germany, he boldly pulled off his star wingers and backed his depth. In the 119th minute, Mikel Merino, a player De La Fuente developed in the youth ranks, shattered the host nation. Against France, Yamal struck the youngest goal in European Championship history. Against England, Mikel Oyarzabal, another soldier from his youth teams, sealed the trophy. Even when Portugal dragged them through penalties in the 2025 Nations League, De La Fuente didn't panic or alter his vision. He didn't need to. The machine was already built to conquer. And at the World Cup, the vindication was absolute. 649 minutes without conceding a single goal. The longest defensive run in World Cup history. The anchor of that backline wasn't some overpriced superstar. It was 19-year-old Pau Cubarsí, allowing Spain to push their defensive block ridiculously high, without fear. In front of him, Rodri quietly extinguished counterattacks before the cameras even noticed them starting. 10 coaches at the World Cup were paid significantly more than De La Fuente. Carlo Ancelotti made 4 times his salary. Thomas Tuchel made almost 3 times as much. Not a single one of them reached the final. The forgotten coach from the newspaper ADID. And the ultimate poetic twist. The only manager standing between De La Fuente and becoming world champion is Lionel Scaloni, a man who literally sat in De La Fuente's classroom in Las Rosas. Back in 2017, at his very first press conference, standing before a wall of media skepticism, Luis De La Fuente made a statement that shocked the country. If there is anyone in this country who knows the present and the future of Spanish football, it is me. Back then, the press laughed. They wrote it off as the delusional arrogance of a nobody. Today, we know he wasn't bragging. He was simply describing players he had already spent a decade building. He killed the toxic egos in that dressing room. And the biggest ego he destroyed wasn't Sergio Ramos's, it was his own. Here is the brutal reality. Football doesn't need more coddled, overhyped superstars. It doesn't need celebrity managers selling PR myths to fan bases blindly blinded by nostalgia. It needs leaders with the guts to slaughter sacred cows, abandon dead dogmas, and execute an uncompromising collective machine. Now, the question is yours. Are you going to keep worshiping 50 million euro names on the back of a jersey, or are you finally ready to understand how real tactical football works? Drop your take in the comments below, if you dare to disagree. And hit subscribe if your brain can actually handle raw football analysis without the sugarcoating.